Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Alaysia here, of course, and I'm back again with another Halloween mystery murder video. This one you guys might have heard of before. It is a very short one, so this video is probably not going to be very long, but it is the case of the Candyman, and obviously it's perfect for Halloween. So this story, I don't know why I keep calling them stories, because like they are stories, but sometimes when I think story I think not real, but that's not true. Anyway, this takes place in Deer Park, Texas, and this involves the O'Brien family, which includes Ronald Clark O'Brien, his wife Diane, their 8-year-old son Timothy, their 5-year-old daughter Elizabeth, and I believe they have a third child that's like a little baby. But the little baby's not really involved in the story, and neither is Diane. But Ronald's an optician, an eye doctor, optician. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I have no clue. This took place on Halloween night, of course, in 1974. This was in the Pasadena neighborhood, and the people sort of kind of involved in this are the O'Briens and their neighbors, Jim Bates and his young son. The wife, the mother, Diane, she was not involved in this. I'm not really sure where she was. I think she was with the youngest child. Where? I don't know. But anyway, so Ronald O'Brien and his children Timothy and Elizabeth are with their neighbors, Jim Bates and his young son. They go up to this house and the lights are off, but they decide to bang on the door anyway, and there was no answer. Because, as you know, Halloween, sometimes people don't turn the lights on, sometimes kids are hopeful and will go knock on the door anyway, just to see. The kids and Jim run off. They are going to move on to the next house where the lights are still on, and Ronald decides to stay back at the house alone and says that he is going to wait just to make sure that nobody is there. So Ronald then returned to his family and his neighbor, and he had a handful of 21-inch pixie sticks. I believe they said that he had 6 of them, 5 or 6. He gave one to each child. So Elizabeth, Timothy, Jim's son, and then I think he saved one for his youngest child, and then later he gave one to a 10-year-old boy from the church. I've seen different possibilities of how this happened. I don't know if they ran past him on the street, but the one that I saw most commonly was that they were back at their house and the boy came up and knocked on the door, and it was only him, and Ronald didn't have any candy because they weren't really giving out candy since he went to take his kids out, so he gave him this pixie stick. He's like, here, I have an extra one, have this pixie stick. As kids do, they asked if they could have a piece of candy before they go to bed. Timothy picks out his pixie stick, and it is unknown what Elizabeth picked because that's not really important to the story. But anyway, the powdered sugar was stuck in the tube, as it does usually. If you've ever had a pixie stick, you know sometimes they get stuck, so you have to kind of wiggle it out. So that's what Ronald did. Ronald went over to help Timothy dislodge the stuck candy. Timothy then began complaining that the candy had a bitter taste, and Ronald had given him Kool-Aid to wash the taste down. Timothy later complained that he was having a stomach ache. So he runs to the bathroom and he just starts throwing up, and he falls to the ground and starts convulsing. Ronald tries to comfort him, and Timothy just goes limp in his arms. I'm not sure where Elizabeth is at this time, or where Diane is, if she's still out with her youngest son. I'm not sure if they were at a friend's house or where they were, but they just weren't there, and Elizabeth might have already been in bed. I don't know. But anyway, 911 was called. It is unsure who calls 911, and Timothy was on his way to the hospital. News got out that Timothy had unfortunately died. On the way to the hospital is when he died. It was just too late, and word got out about it. So everyone said that Timothy died from poisoned Halloween candy. So naturally the whole neighborhood goes into a panic, and parents took all the kids' candy and they take it to the police station so that the police can examine the candy to find out what's wrong with it. Luckily, the candy was brought in so quickly that police were able to avoid anyone else from dying, and it was found out that the only candy that was poisoned were the pixie sticks. And whoever did it had done a very, very sloppy job. The pixie sticks were opened, whatever the substance was poured into them, and then they were stapled shut. Ronald was asked about this because he was the only one that had gotten the pixie sticks from the house. Ronald said that he couldn't find the house to show to the police. And you would think that he would remember what house it was, being that the lights were off and everything. But Ronald said he could not find the house, and that he didn't see a face of who gave them the pixie sticks. He said that it was just dark, and a hand emerged from the door and handed him the pixie sticks, and he took them, and the homeowner never turned the light on. He did say that the arm was hairy, though, but then he left, which I don't get, because I feel like you would notice a staple at the top of a pixie stick. Pixie sticks are tiny, and the staple's most likely bigger than the tube of the pixie stick is. But police then met Ronald again. They told him that they knew something fishy was going on if Ronald did not show them the house where he got these pixie sticks. And, of course, all of a sudden, Ronald remembered. He remembered where he got the pixie sticks. So, Ronald took them to the house, and the man who lived there wasn't home. He worked at an airport, and police then went to the airport and arrested him in front of everyone, and he was brought in for questioning. Well, it turns out this man was working that night, so he was arrested for no reason, and only his wife and daughter were home. But Ronald said that he knew for sure that a man had given him the pixie sticks because it was a hairy arm. Which, I mean, women could have hairy arms too, but you can usually tell the difference between a man's arm and a female's arm. The wife and the daughter said that they had turned the light out when they ran out of candy. And it couldn't have been the wife and daughter because, like I said, Ronald insisted that it was a man. So then comes the autopsy report on Timothy. The autopsy report said that Timothy had consumed enough cyanide to kill 2 people, like 2 full-grown adults. It takes a lot less cyanide, I assume, to kill a child than it would 2 full-grown adults. So Ronald was then angry with his relatives because they didn't stay up late the night of Timothy's funeral. I guess Ronald wrote a song. Didn't stay up late to watch the broadcast of it. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. That's what was said. And after this, there was really no more information from Ronald, so police decided to look into him. So, police found out some pretty interesting things about Ronald. In the last 10 years, Ronald had had over 21 different jobs. He was over $100,000 in debt, and he was suspected of theft at one of his jobs. His car was about to be repossessed because he didn't have money to pay the payments. and the family home had actually been foreclosed on. Before Halloween, Ronald had taken life insurance policies out on both of his children, and he took out $10,000 per child. This was in January, before Halloween, and then he upped it to $20,000 per child in September, only a month before Halloween. So in total, for both kids, this would be $40,000. And the day after Timothy's death, Ronald had called the insurance company about the payout for Timothy's life insurance policy. The day after his son died. I don't know about you, but that would not be the first thing I'd be worried about the day after my son died. And especially because it's not even like a full day, because he called the next morning. And it was that night on his way to the hospital that his son died. So it wasn't even a full 24 hours before he decided to say, hey, insurance company, where's my money for my child dying? I don't understand. So, this helped police build a pretty good case against Ronald. They then got a warrant to search the home because of this, and they found a pair of scissors with plastic residue on them. And this plastic residue was very similar to that of the cyanide-laced pixie sticks. Ronald was actually attending a community college, and he asked his professor if cyanide or another poison would be more lethal towards a person. And it was very clear that Ronald was not even trying to hide that he was doing something. Didn't wait to call it the life insurance company. Straight up asked his professor basically how to kill a person. He just didn't care. So, a man who worked at a chemical store said that a guy came in to buy cyanide, and he couldn't identify this person specifically to be Ronald, but he said that the person was wearing a blue smock. The same smock that Ronald wore, because like I said earlier, he was an optician. So, my whole thing is like, cyanide, it's used to kill people, and it's meant for different things involving like pipes and drainage and stuff like that. I want to know why cyanide is just available to the general public. Why was he able to just go in and buy cyanide? What does an optician need cyanide for? It doesn't make sense. We have laws on everything else, but we don't have like laws on cyanide. But okay. Weren't able to prove anything yet, but obviously they had Ronald for a strong lead, and the press then labeled him as the Candy Man because he poisoned his child with candy. On June 3rd, 1975, the jury took 46 minutes to find him guilty. He was charged with capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder because, like I said, he had a total of 5 pixie sticks. That's 4 other children that could have been murdered with these pixie sticks. So, of course, he was charged for those too. And the jury took 71 minutes to then sentence him to death. His wife then filed for divorce shortly after, as any sane woman would do. And he was confined to the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. He was shunned and despised by fellow prison inmates for killing a child, which is part of why now, I don't know if you've noticed, but prisons, they are usually separated. Anyone who kills a child is usually in a completely different facility. Not facility, but like building section of a prison, because in my personal opinion, a bank robber or a drug dealer is not on the same level as someone who kills a child, and these people will like seriously like fuck another person up for messing with a child. So, he was shunned and despised by fellow death row inmates for killing a child. And there was a petition to hold organized demonstrations to express their hatred towards him. On March 31st, 1984, he was executed by lethal injection, and he claimed that he was innocent until the day he was executed. Claimed he was innocent when he was the only person who had their hands on these pixie sticks, and it was very obvious it was him. Anyway, like I said, short video, short and sweet like candy. Except the pixie stick, that was bitter. Anyway, I'm very hyper throughout this video. It's 1 in the morning, and I just drank a whole cup of coffee, and that was probably not a smart choice. But anyway, that is all for this video. If you guys have any other videos that you would like me to research or talk about or film or whatever else, let me know down below. I'm always very interested and intrigued to learn about different things. I have a few more like Halloween themed videos that I want to film. Hopefully I'll have time to like film them and edit them and upload them for this Halloween season. If not, there's always plenty of cases for next year because there's like 12 more that I know of. And I'm sure there's more than that. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoy your night. Be safe this Halloween. Don't accept pixie sticks that have a staple in the top. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.